The recording has started.
All right, thank you. So we're here for the May 5th edition of the Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Thanks to everybody for being in attendance. We will start with the call to order. You do it individually?
And we're just gonna go around the room. If you say your name and your organization.
So starting with me.
That sounds great.
Okay, so we're going to introduce ourselves individually. It's kind of a little different than we've done for the last several years. So I'll start. Jeff Sims with the Environmental Protection Commission, Hillsborough County, chair of the committee. We'll go this direction, Mike. Yep.
Mike Williams with Hillsborough County Development Services, Vice Chair.
Sophia Garantiva with the Planning Commission.
Melissa Lightheart, Planning Commission staff. Lema Alfasi, Hillsborough County. Oral and Hart, Port Tampa Bay.
Julia Santana, Department of Health.
Jonathan Scott, City of Tampa.
Elizabeth Watkins, TAC liaison, and chair, you have a forum.
Okay, and that covers everybody in the room. I'm assuming we want to identify everybody online. So let me see what we got here. Any other committee members that are currently online, please identify yourselves one at a time.
Frank Kokenauer, City of Plant City.
I think that's everyone. And then we have Jesus.
Raza Garcia from Hart.
Partner, you guys see, he just joined the room in person. So we, as mentioned, we do have a quorum, so that's good. So next up is the public comment. Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak? Seeing none, are we taking them virtual online? I mean, if there was.
Yeah, if there was, I could give comment.
I didn't know if it was. So anybody, give a second to see if there's anybody online. Hit your raise your hand button or anything if you'd like to speak. No hands raised. I don't recognize. I would know. So, okay. With that, I think we will move up to the next order of business, which is the approval of the minutes from the April 7th meeting. It was included with the packet. Do we have any questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Melissa Lightheart with the motion. Can I get a second?
Jonathan Scott, second.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. So we're up to action items. First up, the annual certification of the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Process.
What is the joint certification? It's something you see every year. It is a requirement of us to go through this process. We also do a similar but different one every 4 years with the federal government, but this one is with the state government in particular. And what it is FDOT works with us, works with the board, and we go through a review process. And at the end, they produce a report that's included in your agenda packet that describes any notable achievements, recommendations, and corrective actions. We'll start with the notable achievements. You can see here there are many of them, which is something that we're very excited about. I'll just point out a couple for you. The safe access to parks, the storm evacuation forecast and shelter in place scenario study, the work we've been doing with the transportation improvement program and public awareness, and also the work we've been doing on the MPO merger and talking about a regional MPO. So you can see here there are a lot of very notable achievements that were highlighted by FDOT. There were 3 recommended actions for us. The first is to keep FDOT updated on organizational roles and responsibilities of key staff. So as our staff works on different things, making sure they know who does what. The second is to continue to communicate challenges, questions, and concerns to the FDOT liaison staff directly. And the third is to continue to coordinate with local governments to ensure that recommendations can be implemented. So as we work on our plans and different studies, that we're working with our partners, the local governments, to make sure that they can actually move to those next steps. And I'm happy to report there are no corrective actions. So the recommended action before you today is to recommend that the TPO board support this annual certification of the TPO and authorize the chair to sign the statement. I'll take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Any questions or comments from Sarah? Good. I didn't have any comments you already highlighted. When I looked at it, I think that, the recommendations were to continue doing what you're doing. So that's a check in the box to say you're on the right direction. And of course, you highlighted no corrective action. So that's about as good a report as you can get. So it doesn't seem like there's anything controversial here. Certainly, I think the committee would endorse it, but I'll wait and do it with an official motion. So can we get a motion as stated on the screen? That was part of the packet.
So moved. Misses.
Jesus with the motion. Do we have a second?
Lemma.
Mama with the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Easy enough. Next up. Get the Connor.
Good afternoon, TAC. Just a second. Stop. I'm Connor Trejos, McDonald, TPO staff. I'm here to present on the tip amendment for an interstate wrong-way detection system. So a little bit of a background, there are 6 proposed locations, but the purpose of these wrong-way detection systems is to improve roadway safety on various interstate ramps. We have a quick video to explain these systems. Load. Maybe not. I just have some more information. So the Florida Design Manual requires that all freeway exit ramps must have at least 2 sets of static wrong-way signs. District 7 began implementing these in May of 2015. And between June 2023 and June 2024, there were 119 confirmed wrong-way incidents in Florida. Actually, I believe that may have been District 7. But I have a few more stats for you. There are 129 off-ramps in Hillsborough. So these 6 locations are among the last 18 to be implemented. District 7 has gone above and beyond to really get these systems implemented here. So within District 7, 60% of the systems are in Hillsborough and 60% of the incidents are being. So the wrong-way detection systems, there's 3 zones. So the first is the alert activation zone. And then the second zone here is the corrected or the correction zone. So that gives the driver the opportunity to turn around. Confirmation zone and the last correction zone would alert the management center to then have enforcement address the situation. So the 6 locations are on I-4, I-75, northbound and southbound near US 301, and I-275 westbound at Hines Avenue. So there'll be forward-facing and rear-facing cameras and detectors, 2 sets of dynamic LED signs, and a system that will activate signs and notify the teams of traffic management. Here's an example of that wrong-way detection system, as you see backwards. So a summary of the changes. The major purpose of this tip amendment is a major scope change, but there's also some financial changes as well, moving these funds from 2025 to 2026 and adding about $28,000 in environmental this fiscal year. So with that, the recommended action today is to recommend the TPO board approve the amendments to the fiscal year 25 to 29 transportation improvement program. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Connor. Questions, comments? Jonathan?
Was that 28,000, that was for adjusting for overruns or something? Is that? I thought
So I told with the project manager, this morning, so one, asked me if they were able to get these 6 locations added, was that they were at 90% design. So that really, attracted the state office headquarters to get those last, get them complete. So I believe the 28,000, would be part of that, the design and environment.
Anyone else? No. Mike?
Connor, those locations that you listed, I think there was 5 or 6 of them. How are they selected?
So they were selected based on, data that they've collected, with crashes going the wrong direction, prior to those locations. And these are actually the last 6 of those 129, locations. So kind of, it's the last 6, so trying to complete those.
129 in the district or across the state?
I believe in the, just in Hillsborough, so it's off ramp specifically, not, so it would be double that amount of exits.
So all of them will be covered then? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so I believe these 6 are part of the last 18 to be implemented.
Okay.
The Florida Design Manual and the state is hoping to get towards, runway detection systems on every off ramp. So,
Uh-oh.
I think maybe this.
Given network issues.
Are you done?
We left on the. Would still be a meeting, right?
I think my hearings. But I don't know if this is pretty much shared. Oh. That's right. No, thank you.
Thank you, Connor.
Okay, other questions, comments? I know we were trying to talk off to the side here. We had a couple high profile, incidents. Do you happen to remember when that was? I mean, I want to say it was 5 years ago. Often, I think it was 275. So it's just, do we have any kind of stats about like how you clarified a lot saying these are going to be, I didn't have any idea that we were putting on every ramp. That's great. Like any kind of stats about how effective they've been, or like how many times in the county? I see that one for the state, but was that the county? And I don't know how you would really, I don't know, any kind of other backings on it. I realize this is for the tip approval. It's kind of outside the scope, but just wondered if you had any info.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the 77% that you see on the screen, that's where the driver was able to turn around. I mean, the project manager explained that that's in the correction zone. So the data is actually, those numbers are pulled from existing wrongly detection systems. So it's actually about half of what they see. There may be like a misinterpretation. They get photos, of when these signals are activated, and then they confirm. So there's about half that are actually wrongly detection systems. It's difficult to know, or at least when I do my research, it was difficult to find where the incidents are happening on the static signs, just because they don't, they're not collecting that information when the detection system isn't there. But they found that 77% could be reversed. And then there are, a few percentage actually made onto the roadway, so they found it to be pretty good.
I guess the fact we haven't heard of another high profile incident is hopefully, supportive that they have been effective. It's just one of those things. Sometimes it can be working great, but one incident can skew everything, one bad incident. So it's hard to know, but, okay, great.
I read 77% is 23% not effective. That seems pretty high to me. I mean, I don't know if
Right.
there's more aggressive measures they can take or what, but that's, 28 crashes because of wrong way drivers over a year's period of time across the state, but still, that seems high to me.
Yeah. Of course, they may not all be crashes. Some of them might have been they got on the interstate and realized and turned off. And,
Maybe.
but still, the fact is they made it all the way to a more dangerous location.
In a very high speed location, but
I think, and I can follow up on this information, but it was a lower percentage than the 23%. I believe there were other factors where, I believe like it was, the section was wrong, but they were able to turn around, or there was other factors for the corrective zone. So I believe it was less than 23% that actually made it on, but I don't remember the other factors.
okay, all right. And just one other quick, for me, is the Cellman and doing this as well? And you may not know that,
I'm not familiar with the Selman,
okay?
what their efforts are, but
If I can weigh in, I saw a social media post from Theo recently saying that they're implementing it. I don't remember which ramp, but if this wrong way detection is of interest to the committee, maybe I could work to go with somebody from DOT and the Selman to.
Well, I think they had a really high profile crash as well, at the end of the extension,
Okay.
Brandon, so I would imagine they're very interested in this.
Yeah.
Maybe they're doing something different, I don't know, but, okay.
I'm sure Bob Fry could give you details too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because I mean, that's never, would be a good thing to know. Certainly safety is priority. So,
Yeah.
So with that, can you pull up a slide for the recommended action? So the motion is to recommend the TPO board approve the amendment to the 25-29 transportation improvement program. Can I get a motion?
John, Scott, motion to recommend the TPO board approve the amendment to the fiscal year 25-29 transportation improvement.
Thank you, Jonathan. Can I get a second?
Second, Sophia Gary.
Sophia with a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. Thanks, Connor.
thank you.
Connor.
All right, next up is status report, I believe.
Good afternoon, TAC, Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff. I'll have two presentations for you back to back today, one on the transportation improvement program and one on the priority list. As you'll recall from previous years, we like to bring these important documents to you twice. So what I'd love to get out of this presentation and feedback from you, if there's any projects or anything specific we'd like to know, and then I'll come prepared with that in June. So without further ado, a quick overview about the transportation improvement program. As you're well aware, the TIP is a federally required list of federally funded and regionally significant projects over the next 5 years. So it's very much a list of projects to see what's coming up in the horizon, what's going to be funded, particularly with an eye to those federal funds. And the TPO maintains this because it's our federal and state obligation to do so. Really, one of the primary purposes of the TIP is to bring that visibility and transparency behind which projects are going to be funded with federal dollars. Additionally, the TIP is used on the back end by USDOT before they actually release the funds. They like to check, okay, has the community heard about these projects? Is it in the TIP? And then that's one of many steps they'll do to approve the authorization. There's been a kind of a perennial question about what is the relationship between the TPO's TIP and the DOT's work program. So I tried to put together an illustration that shows that the TIP is really just a subset of DOT's work program. DOT's work program includes projects that are state funded and federally funded. But our mission with the TIP is to summarize those federally funded projects. So I hope that this visualization kind of is displays the link between the two. The TIP is built off the DOT work program. And again, additional visibility is brought to it because those projects are funded with federal tax dollars. So a variety of things that we have to do for adoption beyond just giving you a list of, it's almost 190 projects. We have to have various points of community feedback. We have to be communicating with DOT and with HARD on their projects because that's how the federal funds flow. Make sure that they're in support of that. All projects must be consistent with our 2050 Access 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan. And importantly, the TIP isn't a wish list. This is very much a programming document of what's coming up over the next 5 years. So the TIP couldn't be a list of illustrative projects that we hope to have revenue for. There has to be funds available to advance these projects on the schedule that's outlined in the TIP. So how do projects even get in there? Well, a portion of them come from the TPO's priorities. The TPO has a small pot of federal funds that we work in partnership with DOT to allocate to projects that are priorities, which we'll talk about in the next presentation. But the lion's share of the TIP really comes from DOT's priority projects and their programs, whether that's from the strategic intermodal system or other projects that are on the state highway system, airports, seaports. It's a very wide range of projects that is included in DOT's work program and again is included in the TIP. And operations and maintenance is a big portion of that because we have to be able to maintain our system. So you'll see many projects in there about bridge repairs, landscaping, those sorts of things. So that is also included in the TIP. So the end of the TIP is kind of the end of a programming process. So the priority list that you all recommended the TPO board last June was then given to DOT for development in their tentative work program, which was released last winter. And now it comes to you today in the form of the Transportation Improvement Program and those projects that are fiscally constrained and are expected to be delivered over the next 5 years. So now let's get into the actual content of the TIP. So over these 5 years, there's almost 190 projects included, reflecting over $2.5 billion. And that crosses a variety of modes. You'll see the largest mode share is 1.5 billion for highways. But when we say highways, we don't mean just for like interstate projects. We're talking programmatically. So that would include resurfacing, sidewalks, trails, anything having to do with the surface highway system. Then the next largest component is for transit and transportation disadvantage. So this includes HART's federal funds, as well as some 5310 funds that are used for transportation disadvantage services in the county. And then the remainder are for our mobile partners. So about 187 million is allocated to seaports, over 100 million to airports, and about 34 million to freight. So when we do a deep dive into the TIP, you'll see that the majority of the projects are those to maintain a state of good repair. So this diagram illustrates the projects based on the LRTP categories. And as you'll recall, the TPO here, we have 5 major categories. So 1, smart cities, signalization, ATMS projects, anything with technology. Good repair and resilience, resurfacing our roadways, maintaining our bridges, maintaining our transit fleet. Vision 0 is anything with a safety component. Often safety is integrated into many aspects, but those just standalone safety projects are illustrated here. Road choices when not driving is trails and local bus service. And then our major projects are defined as any kind of widening, whether that's like an arterial or an interstate, any big interchange improvements or fixed highway transit. So you can see the lion's share of those 187 projects goes to keeping our system in a state of good repair, with a smaller distribution of those other smaller projects. But in reality, many projects cross many different categories, but it's just a nice illustration to kind of digest this huge program. And then when we look at the dollars in the TIP, I mentioned earlier, it's $2.5 billion over 5 years. And when we look at that by LRTP category, about half goes to major projects. And that makes a lot of sense because those are really high dollar projects. You know, you're going to spend over $100 million doing some of these things. So while there's fewer projects, they're much more costly. So I'm not going to read off every single project to you because I would never do that to you with my committee. But I did put a QR code in case you are interested in looking at an interactive web map. This will take you to FDOT's tentative work program map. So if you want to scan that or look at your packet later, and if there are specific projects that maybe I didn't mention in these slides, but you would like more information on, I thought this would be one more digestible way to get that information to you. So let's go over a high level, a couple highlights. So for limited access capacity projects, there are a variety of projects on I-275 that are happening. So for the segment 5 of TV Next, so from North Lowest to Howard Avenue, that will be widening the I-275 main line, essentially from West Shore to downtown. Right-of-way is programmed for fiscal year 30. And construction is not yet programmed, but it's estimated to be about $275 million. The West Shore Interchange, aka Section 4 of TV Next, that will go to design build in 28 with a total project cost of $382 million. As you'll recall, for the scope of this project includes adding to reconstruct the general purpose lanes, as well as adding 2 new express lanes in each direction along this portion of I-275. It'll also include flyover ramps for better traffic operations and the replacement of an existing loop ramp. Additionally, there will be some punch throughs, so there will be a new on-ramp on Rio Street from Rio to southbound I-275, and then reconnecting 3 local roadways of Rio, Occident, and Trask Street to help improve that local traffic circulation. Then looking eastbound to I-4, there are a variety of auxiliary lane projects that are going to be undertaken over the next 5 years. So looking to the Plant City portion of the county, we'll be seeing eastbound and westbound auxiliary lanes from west of Bethlehem Road, west of Branchford Road. That is programmed for construction in 28. And then coming a little bit further west into unincorporated county from westbound Way Station to west of McIntosh Road, there'll be an auxiliary lane that's programmed for construction in 28. And as we heard over the past few months at this committee, the Suncoast Parkway from south of Van Dyke to north of Loose Lake Burn Road is currently in PD&E, and construction is not programmed at this time. So other capacity projects you may be interested in, there will be a widening of MLK from Kingsway to McIntosh from 2 to 4 lanes. Construction is programmed in 29 for that. State Route 60 from Valrico to Dover will be 4 to 6. Construction is programmed in fiscal year 30. Additionally, other improvements will include adding a buffered bike lane and sidewalks where they don't already exist, and some stormwater upgrades. US 41 from Dover to Austin, there will be a right-of-way acquisition in 27 to ultimately widen the roadway from 4 to 6 lanes, and then include drainage improvements, a shared use path, and other signage enhancements or bike ped enhancements. And then finally, Big Bend Road widening from 4 to 6 lanes from US 41 to Covington Park Drive. This is a Hillsborough County project with construction estimated in 2026. So changing modes, looking at some of the bike walk projects that are programmed in the TIP, the South Coast Freeway, which is essentially an overpass of Big Bend Road, that's programmed for construction in 29. The city of Tampa won a SunTrail grant to construct the South Tampa Greenway in fiscal year 30, and this project will include installing a 12-foot wide asphalt trail along Interbay and helping fill in any missing gaps. The Tampa Bypass Canal from Morris Bridge to Bruce B. Downs is programmed for PE in 27. And on Fowler Avenue, there's a little bit of action going on. The side path from 56 to I-75, that's scheduled for construction in 28. And then all along Fowler, I believe, from like Nebraska to 56, there's a variety of safety improvements, mid-block crossings, and other safety enhancements. And those will be a little bit earlier and with construction programmed in 26. There's also a new pedestrian signal in Temple Terrace at 56 in Chihuahua, as well as a variety of sidewalks at some middle schools in Plant City along State Route 39 and US 301. Transit, there's a lot going on for transit. As I mentioned, all federal funds have to be in the tip. So much of Hertz revenues are included here, which includes our partnership with the city of Tampa of extending the streetcar. There's also state support for Hertz routes 34 and 400. The state gives a grant to help subsidize those operating costs, as well as continuing to work towards the completion of the heavy maintenance facility renovation. And then, of course, the bread and butter of Hertz mission of ensuring that their fleet is up to date and that their bus stops are rehabilitated in a state of good repair. And then finally, there are a variety of signal upgrades happening. So at Adamo Drive, at Maydell Drive will be a new signal and intersection improvements. That'll include pedestrian signals, crosswalks, updated lighting. Another new signal at Del Mabry and Lakeview, or excuse me, a rehabilitated one with new span wire. And a variety of different signals along US 41, all the way from like Sulphur Springs up to. I was trying to think about what things the TAC may be interested in. So there are a variety of projects. I'll have preliminary engineering coming up. It's intentionally small because there's too many for you to see, but I thought that may be an interest area if you guys wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive at some of these projects over the next year or so, but there are a variety of projects that are going to be advancing to PE. That was my recap. I know it was a lot. Always open to feedback on a better way to summarize 190 projects, but looking to our upcoming milestones, you are the first presentation about the TIP, and we'll continue to do that through mid-June. We're going to be doing a variety of different public engagement methods, including sending flyers, posting road signs, doing a newspaper ad, and then putting it on social media. And then we'll look towards June 11th, just when the TPO board will consider adoption of the TIP. So no action today, just any questions or any discussion or things you'd like me to come back prepared with next month.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Any questions? I guess, I mean, I know just looking at them, I've seen a lot of areas where we've seen problems over the past, so certainly good to see them on the list. Just remind us, like, if there was something that a committee member wanted to raise that they don't see on the list and would like to have it, you know, at least prioritized or seen, what would be the process?
Yeah, I think a good step for that would be to look at what's in the TIP already, because this is what's programmed. We'll get into the priority list of what's kind of our wish list in the next presentation. But take a look at that project list. If there's anything that gives you concern or you want more interest on, get with me and I'll connect you with the DOT project manager and we can kind of take it from there.
Okay. It's
Hi. Thanks for the presentation. Good summary. I like the little Venn diagram looking thing. I thought it was pretty cool. I understood at least. I have a quick non-consequential question. The US 41 Dover to Austin, is that South County or Lucas? Like, what's the general location of that?
I believe that's actually near the like Palm River area, that part of US 41. So across from the port, there's a variety of investments that are going on there to help facilitate freight movement. That's access to the port, and I know US 41 is a state park.
Thank you.
Is that the flyover that's being proposed where the CSX is?
That, yeah, that is that part. There's a variety of projects in that.
Well, that'd be Causeway. Wait a minute, I'm sorry.
It's
On Causeway at 41.
But give Dover and
Yeah.
Austin's on either side of Causeway.
Uh,
I don't know where they are.
Because I saw that, I think it might be in your next presentation, but,
Yeah.
so we'll probably, we might find out there. We'll wait with bated breath to see if it gives Dover or Austin listed as one of the streets that it's.
The limits changed from the last tip. That's something I asked DOT about, and I think it was done just for like logical termini purpose. I'm used to seeing that project in a different way, but it's exactly what Mike was talking about. It used to have different limits, but it's about portion of line.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, round two.
Oh, it's easy.
Hmm.
So this next presentation is specifically on the TPO's priority list. So we're early on in the programming process here. You'll notice that we're giving it a new name. This used to be like table 2 in the TIP. But now we're kind of intentionally calling it the fiscal year 27 to 31 TPO priority list. Because this is the priority list that will be used to inform next year's TIP and the next work program. So what exactly is the priority list? It's pretty intuitive in its name. It's a list of the priority projects to the TPO board. It's kind of broken up into 3 sections. Many of the projects are in pre-construction, so anywhere from PD up until right of way. Then we also like to pay special attention to those projects that are priorities that have a construction program. Like to keep an eye on those because we know costs escalate, things happen. So although funds are programmed and things are looking good, we still keep them on this priority list to show that continuity of support. And then finally, we're going to start trying to celebrate some of those priorities that have been constructed. So you'll see that later on. There are 3 main ways that the priority list is used. The number one way is mostly to prioritize projects for the small pot of federal funds that the TPO board has direction in helping to assign to projects. Ultimately, DOT does the programming of it, but there's the special pots of funds, about anywhere from $20 to $30 million a year that the TPO can put these, in conjunction with DOT, put these funds on. It's also a method to communicate to DOT on needs on their facilities. So sometimes we'll see our partners say, hey, there's a problem on, let's say, like Dale Mabry. Let's put that on the priority list so DOT knows that there is community and political support for them to work that into their work program and address that need. And then finally, the priority list can be used just to show community support for projects. Discretionary grants have been a really big thing over the past few years through the current transportation authorization bill. And being on this list can show the feds, hey, there is support for this project. So you'll recall this graphic from the previous presentation. We are early on in the process. So earlier this spring, we wrapped up our call for projects. So the projects in the priority list come directly from the municipalities and from HART. And that's important for a few reasons. They're going to be the ones actually delivering the project. So we have to make sure that they're on board with having it on this list and getting funds on it. So projects come directly from the municipalities, from HART. Then the TPO board TPO staff will evaluate the projects and put forth the priority list, which you'll see today. And then you'll see this list in another form this winter for DOT's work program, and then a year from now in the transportation. So who's involved? Like I mentioned, local agencies are the ones actually submitting and implementing the projects. TPO plays a coordination role and helps evaluate and rank the projects. And DOT actually programs the funds, coordinates with partners, and they have an important oversight role of all federally funded projects. At a big picture, projects are ranked by categorizing them in different investment programs. And then TPO staff have a variety of performance measures to try to help compare apples to apples so that we're not comparing a new signal with a road widening. So we really kind of think about what are the outcomes that are intended for each of these investments and how do they perform against each other to come up with a ranking list. There was one change to our methodology last year, which you may recall, we had to amend our priority list based on the CAC's recommendation to move up the streetcar extension downtown to airport and Brightline multimodal connections. And the board asked staff to do that. So we kind of treated that as a policy decision. Regardless of how they ranked, we move them to the top of their categories based on board direction. So let's get into the list. So there are about 73 projects on this list that are either seeking funding or community support. But only a handful of those, about 18%, are actively looking for federal funds in fiscal year 21. Here is a map of those projects. It's included in your packet. I just wanted to provide another way for you to digest this information. So those projects actually competing for funding. We have a few across all different program categories. So in smart cities, the city of Temple Terrace submitted an application to have a pedestrian signal and intersection improvements and developed on North 56 and Druid Hills. There are a variety of state of good repair and resilience projects, all from HART. to continue the investment in their fleet and to make bus stop repairs as well as our heavy maintenance facility. For our Vision Zero, our safety focused projects, the city of Tampa submitted an application for Anna Avenue traffic calming. And then the city of Temple Terrace also submitted a project for a pedestrian signal at P6 on Route 13. And Plant City submitted an application for a complete street along Holland Street, which is an important corridor in Plant City. Looking to the real choices we're not driving category, these are all different trails that that the county wants to advance and are seeking funding, whether it's through the TPO sub-allocated funds or a Sun Trail. And then finally, for major investments for economic growth, HART submitted an application for support on their Tampa arterial bus rapid transit, and then 2 widenings in South County, both Gibsonton Drive and Ball Road. So looking to the projects that have been longstanding priorities and have been programmed for construction. There are about 50 of those, and they stay on this list until they're ultimately built. So here's one of the projects we were talking about earlier, that CSX grade separation at US 41 and the railroad tracks. This has been a top priority for the TPO and DOT, great priority for a long time, and we're really excited to see that construction is finally programmed in fiscal year 30 to make this and then other projects happen. Along in this section between 41 and Causeway. Sorry.
You're looking for Austin and Dover.
Yeah,
I saw Austin, but I didn't see Dover.
I guess it's a little bit south, but they're all related. I will come back in June with more specificity on all the different projects in this area. And it's just south of this segment, Austin to Denver. Another project that's programmed for construction is a pedestrian signal at 56 and Sawaha Road. This project bubbled up from 56 and 50th corridor study, and it was found to meet warrant. There have been a number of bike head crashes there, and it's in front of a really heavily used shopping center in Temple Terrace. So looking forward to seeing that signed and constructed in fiscal year 30.
Oh, I was just commenting, isn't that like a block from the intersection of 56 and Bush? Like, it's sad to think that there's that big of a problem when it's that close to an intersection.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, it's an editorial comment, but it's probably well needed, don't get me wrong, but if that's where I think it is, it would, I guess Fletcher proved the same thing. People will walk wherever if there's not something really close, but anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
And that warrant is something we can look into further. It's still going to be in design in 26, but there were a variety of crashes of bike and ped ones. So I think that was one of the factors to see if it even met.
Okay.
South Tampa Greenway. I mentioned this one earlier. This is going to be constructed in fiscal year 30 and help connect Picnic Island to other key places in South Tampa. And then I'd like to round out this presentation by highlighting a few completed priority projects that have been on our list for a long time and are open to traffic and are big successes. So I had to start with this, of course, the Howard Franklin Bridge. This is, I think, one of the most expensive and needed projects in the entire state. So it's a new bridge that will consist of 8 lanes, 4 general use lanes, which just opened this March. The express lanes are supposed to open up sometime this summer, and then by spring 2026, the shared use pathway will be installed and open for walkers and bikers. Another priority project that's now open to traffic are Boy Scout Road and Manhattan Avenue intersection improvements. This is one of the top safety priorities. The funds were used to install a signalized intersection to help allow for safety with new crosswalks and traffic flow. Other improvements included new pedestrian crossings, new lighting, and signage. So this just opened up, I think, a month or two ago near West Shore. Then along Nebraska Avenue, there have been a variety of pedestrian upgrades, including the installation of mid-block crossings, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, traffic signals, pedestrian refuges. And I think there's about 5 or 6 sites all along Nebraska now that these amenities are installed. And then finally, looking more to the eastern part of the county, there were 3 new signals that were installed along US at Harney, Stacy, and McIntosh. So there are the new signals as well as some new lighting to enhance bike and pedestrian access, as well as crosswalks to help connect into the Fort King Trail and this portion of the county. Again, I know that was a lot. It's over 70 projects. This is an introductory presentation. We'll carry forward with our presentations to committees, doing public outreach, and this will go before the board on June 11th. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments you have.
All right, any questions regarding the priority list? I think we're good. All right. So I think the last topic, Plant City Central Connection Study.
Good afternoon, TAC. Ben Gordon, TPO staff. Thank you all for having me. Give me 3 seconds and I'll get my screen up. Yeah, so I'm just going to be presenting the Plant City Suntrail Connection Study. We're actually well into this project as it stands. We had our kickoff meeting in January, but I'll just bring you all up to speed as best as I can with an overview of the study's background, our scope and timeline, some of the trails and alignments that we are considering, and then the next steps. So just for some background, the Florida Shared Use Non-Motorized Suntrail Network is a statewide trail system, multi-use, and it's focused on connecting major cities, smaller communities, just building up that statewide regional trail network. And the Suntrail program, it's facilitated by both the Florida Department of Transportation and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They fund the construction, planning, design of all of these trails that are part of that statewide network. As it stands right now, Plant City in Hillsborough has no trails that are within that network, and so nothing that's eligible to apply for funding from that statewide program. And so this study is an effort to look into our options to plug Plant City in to the Suntrail network. We've started by identifying different possible locations and existing and future Plant City trails, coming up with alignments and surveying the public on that. I'll definitely give an update on that shortly. And then this is coming up in the future. This is not behind us yet. Analyzing the feasibility of different alignments, summarizing the findings, and providing some recommendations. So we had our kickoff meeting in January, and we went through different alternatives. We put out a survey that really just closed, soliciting public input on different options. The initial data collection for trails in the area include the Florida Greenways and Trails System Plan, the Plant City Canal Trail Feasibility Study, and the Plant City Walk Bike Plan, as well as several other regional plans, the Hillsborough Greenways and Trails Master Plan. I would say that 2 particularly important ones have been the Plant City Walk Bike Plan and the Plant City Canal Trail Feasibility Study, because there's already some funding in the works for the Plant City Canal Trail, and we're almost certainly going to try to connect it using this Suntrail pathway. This is just a data review matrix. You'll see that each study had different merits to offer. Some of them were part of the Suntrail, others just more regionally focused. We had different design criteria. But in a nutshell, we had a spaghetti map, lots of different proposals all over the place. This was one that definitely caught our eye, the Florida Greenways and Trails System Opportunity Trail. That goes primarily along 574, the county road. This was what we saw from the Hillsborough Greenways Vision Plan. Again, a lot of different east-west connections, but also north-south is a possibility. And then here is the walk bike plan, where you're beginning to see this concept of the Canal Connector Trail, a trail in that general area coming together. Here's the more recent one that we finished a couple of years ago for the Plant City Trail. So we've already carried out some field visits, identified different alternatives, and put out that survey. And I'll just share that these were the main connections that we had narrowed it down to, that we surveyed the public on. You have one that's north of I-4 along Sam Allen Road primarily, and then a few more that are south of I-4 along roadways like State Road 574 or US 92. We have possible northward connections, as well as the idea of going east towards Lake City and Polk County. And the survey closed last month, around April 20th. We got some really helpful results out of that as well. You'll see that there was not a really strong, or we saw a pretty overall preference for rural trails. We pulled people on the trails environment that they wanted. The purposes that they would use were primarily fun or exercise, but a significant number of people for commuting and socializing as well. Let's see. Most people, the most common mode of transportation was biking, with walking a close second. And lots of people said that the main thing preventing them from using trails nearby is just that they don't have trails near their house at the moment. We got about 138 respondents on this survey, and most of them were from Plant City. So that was good that we have good local participation. And we saw that the two most popular trail options were going east to Lakeland or the more northward western route towards Stoney-Nassau. And that will, we saw a similar question that zeroed in a little bit more on specific roadways that we could use. But again, we saw these northward routes coming out on top, and the Lakeland route was popular. So the next steps that we're going to have will be just reviewing this data together at a stakeholder meeting that's inviting a bunch of different study participants. That is on the 20th of this month. And we're going to work on systematizing our evaluation criteria and narrowing it down to a real recommendation that we can share with the committees and the board. So that's all I got. Does anybody have questions?
Okay, thanks, Ben. Do we have any questions? Where's the stakeholder meeting going to be? Is it going to be in Plant City?
Probably online. We're thinking that we may set up an in-person meeting that's along the potential trail route near Plant City. It will be either this stakeholder meeting, maybe with a hybrid, or the next one. But we are working on that.
And I'm sure you've been interacting with the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee on suggestions or recommendations on this?
Yes, they've been getting monthly updates and have provided some good feedback.
Okay. All right, questions or comments? Okay, I guess we'll look forward to future updates as more decisions are made. So,
excellent. Thank you very much.
Ben, all right. I think that concludes all scheduled items. Any old or new business? I have two quick ones. Last month I announced our Clean Air Fair. We did have it last Thursday. It was very successful, and we had several committee members or their organizations in attendance. So I appreciate that for your support. Also, about a month ago, right after our last meeting, we had well, we didn't have it, but we participated in the Great Port Cleanup. That just so happened our teammates were Planning Commission and TPO. So we appreciate you guys helping out on environmental stuff. And while it was rewarding to see how much trash that we could get, it was also disturbing on how much trash accumulates there, most of which is just through recklessness of humans and what we do. So I don't know how that ties to transportation, except to say, whenever we can include designs to reduce trash getting into the stream, all the better. But again, the reason I bring it up is thank you to TPO Planning Commission for participating. We enjoyed being part of it. That does it for me and my PR statements. Anybody else have any comments? All right, with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean,